Hey, this is Pastor Jackie, and I want to welcome you to the Urban Apologetics channel. Let me do my regular welcomes. Just always glad you're here. Got some information for you today that's really just as usual, right? It is really going to blow your mind. Things I'm sure you haven't heard before, but trying to make you the smartest person in the room, trying to put you in a position where you can find these things on your own and you don't, you know, they start jumping off the pages of scripture where we are showing you how science and the Bible come together. And as we do that, you start putting these pieces together and it definitely makes a difference. As usual, we're here every Monday at 8 o'clock, but today is a little bit different. I'm not going to put up the man cave sign for you because I'm in Huntsville, Alabama, visiting family, and I'm just very grateful to my niece for the light that she's given me to be able to use. I'm using 2 ring lights, and so it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to be able to get through this. And just having a good time with family. Came down because somebody is ill, so it's not a pleasure trip. It wasn't planned. I grabbed whatever it was that I could and got myself on out of the door. Sorry about that. So anyway, we're moving forward. There are things that we're going to learn today. I'm excited about that. I just want to remind you, this is who we are, and what we are looking at is Black biblical history. Let me give you a couple of resources. Some of these you've seen before. There's one that you haven't. But I use the Africa Study Bible. I've gotten a lot of information from that. That was a gift that was given to me. And, again, as I've said before, I've been studying this thing for 30 years. However, there's always fresh information, something I didn't see, a character I didn't know. And that's in every age of history, every era. But it has just been an absolute blessing to dig into this Bible and to glean quite a bit from it. Some of what you're going to hear tonight is going to come from the Black Biblical Heritage book, which is great, a little bit more expensive than it used to be when I first bought it. Tried to buy a second one as a gift, and the price has gone way up from when I got my first one back in the 90s. But I encourage you to get that. You're also going to hear information tonight from National Geographic. They did a study on Black pharaohs, and there's a few pictures that are connected with that in addition to the things that I will share with you, some of the things that I'll share with you today. And I guess now is the best time to tell you, listen, it's gonna take a while. Like, you can't get through the Egyptians or what happened with Mizraim in one talk. Mizraim is Ham's son, and we've been talking about Noah and his crew. That was our title, but now we're getting a little bit more specific with Ham, and we dealt with Cush last week, and this week we are dealing with his son Mizraim, whose name is translated Egypt. They are synonymous terms, although the Egyptians would not have called themselves Egyptians years ago. They would have said that they were Mizraim. So it's story time. It's time to dig into some things that you might not know and do the best we can to give you information that will just absolutely set you on fire and bless you. So regardless of whether the circumstances are a little bit different from usual, I'm going to do the best I can to work my way through this. Let me do a very quick recap of last week, because I said something that was really staggering, and I just believe that it's important as much as possible to repeat pieces of this information. All right, let me get that tag off of there so you can see the whole thing. So we were talking last week about God, and there is a description. And again, you can do what you want to do with it, but there is a description in the book of Revelation that tells us the color of God: jasper, carnelian, gemstone. And so we got into a conversation about what those look like. And so I just want to go over those real quick, just to give you a picture of that. Again, you can do with this what you want to, call it a metaphor or whatever, but if you go by this, then God is a person of color, which I find very, very interesting. Okay, so moving on, as promised, we're going to talk about Mizraim and all that that involves. He is, and this is from Scripture. If you want to read ahead or get a little bit more out of this, you can read in Genesis chapter 10, verses 6 to 20 is the line of Ham. And we haven't done that yet, where we've read through all of the names there. I'm just simply taking them, by the numbers, one by one. But if you want to get ahead on that and want to take a look at who some of the people are and look them up early, that kind of thing, trace where they went, because remember, I'm showing you who these people are and where they came from, right? And where they migrated to. And so you get a name and you get a map, you start seeing Tyre and Sidon as a city that's mentioned, Nineveh that's mentioned. You start seeing these various names and making these connections, and you realize that these folks are black. And I have made some very strong statements that until around the 3rd century BC, there are no white men in the picture. Japheth, who left, Noah's son, and went north, Russia, the Germanic territory, France, Spain, Turkey, that went all up into that territory, didn't even start off white himself. I have explained to you and showed you some research that the white man's only been around about 4,200 years. Now, again, you can check out the research on, and do research on the research. But again, as I keep saying, we're the only religion, and I read to you a source for that. We're the only religion that changed the color of the skin of the people who founded it or were in the narrative. Only one. Didn't do it with Buddhists, didn't do it with Muslims, didn't do it with Hindu. No, we're the only one. And so it is very important to understand why, and we're going to deal with a little bit of that today. And, all of this is in your face. We have to either refute it. I had a quote, and I may use it next week. Well, this guy I've said this before. Let me say this now. I think this is important. We cannot, in urban apologetics, it is important for us when we're dealing with young black men and women, 70% of who leave the church when they leave home. We cannot just tell them another Bible story. And we have to, I promise you, I'm a part of the church. I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but we normally don't go back far enough. So we don't have enough information to change their minds about the way that they're thinking, because we don't know that DNA evidence shows that Noah was black. But again, it's elementary though. If you don't have melanin, you can't make black people. So they have to have started it off, and then, I've gone over all of that. There are other videos. They are on YouTube on the Urban Apologetics channel, and you can go there and you can find this out. What I've already said about that. It's not today's lesson, but sometimes I feel like I need to kind of plead with you so that you can get, that we have a group of people that we need to be trying to save. All right. Now, today's lesson is not like last week. Last week was filled with scripture, Jeremiah, Isaiah. We were all over the place, right? Which was awesome to do. But that's not what we're doing this week, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that Egypt is in the Bible 641 times. So it's not like there's a lack of scriptures that define this. It's just that this week I just want to show evidence, proof that Ham's folks were black, and that, his second son, Mizraim, is the progenitor, is the father of Egypt. All right. Now I used this map I'm going to show you last week. That's Nubia. And I don't think I made that clear enough, because there was a time that, depending on where a king may have come from, a pharaoh may have come from, that if he was from the Sudan, then pyramids would be built in the Sudan, and he might rule from the Sudan. If he was in Egypt, he might rule from there. But we are talking about a united kingdom of what we might understand as the Sudan, Put, land of Cush, Mizraim. Just there are different terms that Ethiopia, different terms that might be interchangeable here that might give us an understanding of who these people are and where they lived. Got another map I'm going to show you that I think is pretty staggering, in my opinion. All right, so let's take a look at this. The pyramids and the sphinxes that are there are touted to be one of the great marvels of the world, right? One of the wonders of the world, because they can't figure out how it was done. I mean, I've heard things about, that aliens came down and all of that, but, this is the birth of mathematics. This is where all of that began. And how they pulled it off, I don't know. We can't figure it out. We don't know how they pulled these rocks and how the pyramids are so perfect. Side note, we'll talk about later. Napoleon, early 1800s, had his soldiers shoot off the noses of sphinxes because clearly they had black features. And he destroyed tens of thousands of portraits and pictures that depicted Jesus as and other folks in scripture as being black, and he didn't want that. And let me back up. I apologize for this. I don't even know if this is going to be clear when I do it. Yeah, not bad. This is the book. Excuse me. This is the book that has a lot of that information in there of what Napoleon did. So again, if you can get your hands on it, it'd be well worth the study. All right, so it's me hitting the wrong button. So the pyramids are one of the, the eighth wonders of the world, or whatever, however that's put. The pyramids are we don't, and they're still standing. Now I'm going to, talk a bit about the fact that there are more of them in the Sudan than there are in Egypt. And we'll get to that in time. All right. Get myself back together here. A little out of sorts because I'm in a different spot and all of that. But information is still good. Sorry, guys. So we have all of this evidence, all of this proof, all of these black people, the sphinxes, the pictures that are on the walls, and you have to be careful. I was reading this it was article that was done by scholars. Even they need to be checked out. A lot of times this stuff is older when you run into racism and they slanted it. But this particular one wasn't. And here's what the guy did. He went back 1,300 years. Picked a point and went 1,300 years prior to that. Well, of course, in Egypt, there's mixing that's happening at this point. There's conquering that's going on, and then you get the people that we have now, where there's Arabs that are mixing with the black people that are in Egypt. They're intermarrying. There are also wars that are going on. Greece, Alexander the Great comes down. There's conquering. You have Rome that's running Jerusalem by the time Jesus comes. So, of course, if you go back 1,300 years and take a look, of course, you're going to have a mixed. Of course you are. But if you go back to the origin and you work your way up from the beginning, from Mizraim, which we're talking about, what, maybe 3,000, 4,000 years almost? So we got 4,000 years of history of these folks being nothing but black. And then we have this period where, again, with wars and things like that, things start to get, mixed around. But the point that I'm making is if we're trying to prove a point, which this so-called scholar was, if you're trying to prove a point and you don't go back far enough, but that's the same complaint I have with some of us in the church. You've got to go back far enough, and you've got to do the due diligence. Look up other sources. I mean, yeah, this takes time, right? What I give you in 45, 50 minutes, it takes me all week, hitting and missing, and then, all my whole Sunday and my Monday up to the time that I click on. But you got to put your time in. And you're talking about somebody that's been studying it for 30 years. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Now, I'm not talking about you have to do the level of research that I'm doing. I'm just saying, don't be uninformed. Right? Don't be uninformed and let somebody else tell you what happened without checking out that source to make sure it's a good scholarly source and that the person doesn't have an agenda. It's very important. All right. A little bit off topic, kind of, but because I have some other things to show you. But I just wanted to make sure, this is serious business. This is our life, our world. And the lies have gone on for so long. And I'm not talking about being mad about what happened. But I am talking about writing the story, R-I-G-H-T. I'm talking about putting the story in its proper place with the truth so that the lie doesn't continue. I want what I'm teaching you to become common knowledge. And I'll be straight with you. I want to be known in every household, not in an arrogant sense, but as somebody that has put their time in, that understands what they're talking about, so we can change this world. Maybe there'll be less billy clubs upside heads for no reason. Maybe there'll be less police officers to see a black person and a white person fighting and throw the black person to the ground and handcuff him and arrest him, and the white guy just sits on a couch. Because the black man will be back in his proper place, just like Zephaniah 3:10 says, before this is all over, God's going to restore the black man. So I'm hoping I'm playing a role in that. All right, none of this is in the script, so I guess I'm half sorry. Let me get us to our next piece. I want to make sure that you can see all of these characters, because I'm trying to also make sure that we get a clear revelation that these people were black. And that's one of the reasons why I don't put any white pictures up, pictures of white people. I try not to do that. I mean, even if I'm trying to contrast it, saying this is what they look like, I try not to do too much of that, because those images have already been burned in your mind. I want to burn the right images in your mind. But when you take a look at Egypt, this is consistent that these people were black. Nefertiti looks like Iman, the model. I've actually got a picture with them side by side. And they look exactly alike. These are people of color, folks. Look at the features. These are people of color. These are black folks. Are you hearing me? The dude has an afro. This guy has an afro. I mean, you know, at some point, it's got to be where it can't be any clearer than it is. And I've got several of these pictures as well. Matter of fact, I got about 4,500 pictures on my phone. I got to get some of this stuff out and categorized, all that. But I've got pictures where it shows people that currently look like the people that you see, the statues and things like that you see. And it's not forced. I've got a picture of a guy, he's got elongated kind of features. And there's a black guy from that region that has the exact same features. He doesn't have the big nose, he doesn't have but he looks exactly like the statue. These things are important. All right, let's read something here. When you're scouring the history of Egypt and the ancient Egyptians, several historians of ancient Greece said that ancient Egyptians had skin that was melanchrose, melanin. In other words, black or dark skin. Even the early Latin eyewitnesses described the ancient Egyptians as black skin with woolly hair. Now, the problem that I have is we shouldn't even have to, why am I even doing this? I mean, not that you don't study history no matter what, but I'm saying, why does it have to be an apologetic when it should be common knowledge? But it is an apologetic. And that is simply because people don't know these things. And we all should know that these people were black, but there was a conspiracy. There really was a conspiracy to keep you from knowing what the truth was. Why? Why? What's the reason for it? Why? For superiority. But a man from France, Gaston Maspero, he made a statement. I'm going to put this on the big screen full in just a second. There were scholars that didn't have a dog in the fight, right? No slavery in the country. So they didn't have a reason, even though there may have been some racism, of course, going on in their country, there was no reason for this suppression to look at black people as a lower form of human being. And because of that, there were some anthropologists. He did something called sinology. I need to find out what that is. I read that recently. I just thought about that. But anyway, they didn't have a dog in the fight, so therefore they didn't mind at all some of the things that, just simply telling the truth. But everybody wasn't doing that. Hold on just a second. Let me make this so we can read this. It says, very clear that Egyptians of both ancient and modern times are of the Hamitic ethnicity, that is black. Further evidence of a black Egypt, and I am not referring to the 25th dynasty of Nubian rule, is that Professor Fabrizio Mari discovered a mummy at the UN Mehagog, which is older than any Egyptian mummy, it was a black boy. There are volumes of information supporting a black Egypt. You may try looking at pictures of black people and then comparing them, which I've been doing, with Egyptian paintings and sculptures, many of which have been held out of public light until recently. Well, that's still going on today, sir. That's still going on today. But we've had some scholars. I'm going to stay off just for a second. This is Dr. Diop. He's not with us anymore. I don't know how clearly you can read that, but his name is all that I wanted, and his picture, and the source where this information is coming from. I wanted to make sure that that was clear for you to see. And so here are some statements that he made, some things that he discovered in his years of anthropology. So according to Diop, blood type is also evidence. He found that even after hundreds of years of intermixing with foreign invaders, the blood type of modern Egyptians is the same group B as the population of Western Africa and the Atlantic seaboard, and not the AZ or A2 characteristic of the white race prior to any crossbreeding. Now, there's a source there. You can move forward. And I apologize. The print for me is about a 2 font, so sometimes I can't see it that clear. So I apologize for someone that has. So basically, what he's trying to tell you here is that you can still find traces of the blood of the original people, even though there's been mixing. Just like with the Jews, there's a specific Y chromosome that they have, and you can tell that they are in the family, right? The Ashkenazi Jews and the Judah, they both have the same Y chromosome. The descendants of Gomer and the Limba tribe, you can tell that they are connected. Their family, one is definitely all white, right? White. And the other one is coal black. But they share the same DNA. And so in understanding that, first of all, you understand that God is all about diversity, and he doesn't care anything about color. That part is not important to him. But what is important is your connection to Jesus, right? Your connection to God. That's what means more than anything about color. But because Christianity has been turned into a white man's religion, it's thrown people off and they're walking away from it. We got to right this wrong and understand who all of these people were and what they were doing, and not have them pushed out of the narrative to the point to where my people are rejecting it. Now, I don't want white people to reject it once they hear this truth, but at the same time, you can't keep the lie going. You can't just leave it like it is. All right. Black and proud. It seems ancient Egyptians considered themselves as black as they described themselves as KMT, Kemet, which means the blacks. The term is a collective noun, which thus describes the whole people of Pharaonic Egypt as black persons, according to Diop. Now, I understand what he's saying here, but I want you to understand that they would not have, that didn't mean race to them then. Race is something that was created by white people for slavery, separating people like that. They would not have had that kind of language. They would have understood skin color, right? I read from you Jeremiah in our last time together, where God mentions the skin color of the black man and says it's maratz, that it's perfect and unblemished. So he mentioned skin color. Skin color is mentioned in the Bible specifically in several places. But it is not attributed to race. So whenever we're talking about that, I just want to make sure that you you make that separation. Yes, they're proud of their skin and are ashamed of it in any way whatsoever. And we have some young people that struggle with that today. They're ashamed of their skin. You have little black girls that will choose the white doll because it's already getting into her psyche that somehow that is being better. Reading bones. According to the scientist Diop's research, most of the skeletons and skulls in ancient Egyptians, of the ancient Egyptians, had features similar to those of modern Black Nubians and other people of the Upper Nile and East Africa, proving they were Black and African. I don't know, man. I mean, after a while, and I guess, part of this is just how long I've been studying this, but, it just almost should go without saying. But when you watch, what was that movie, God of Gods or something, that had two white people that were in Egypt and ruling and all of that, when they keep coming out with movies, Crow, sorry, I do more reading than I watch TV, but I can't think of what his name is, but he played Noah. So when you have that kind of stuff on a consistent basis, it creates a way of thinking. Those images mean something. So let's talk about King Tut. King Tut, I had the opportunity in San Francisco many, many years ago to see the King Tut exhibit. The young man died of something at 19. The only thing the difference with King Tut is that his tomb was untouched. Many of those tombs, because people knew there were gold there, they dug and dug and dug until they got the gold out and, ran wild with it. But his tomb was pretty much untouched. And so that's one of the things that makes him famous as a pharaoh. All the stuff was still there, not because there's some special accomplishment that he did. But anyway, let's deal with the science. DNA. All right, small print, I'm going to work with it. Analysis of Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun and family DNA tribes recently found that the closest living relatives of the mummies are sub-Saharan Africans, particularly those from southern Africa and the Great Lakes region. All right, and there is another, you can click on that and it'll get you to some of the other stuff that is connected with that, right? But DNA evidence, again, science and the Bible are agreeing. Now, Tutankhamun's not going to be in the Bible, but there'll be some other pharaohs, again, 641 times it's in there, and they're going to be, there's various statements. But to understand, when you start reading this stuff and you understand that these people are Black, it just has a different feel to it, trust me. When you, and I've talked about this before, so let me say it again. When you read Genesis chapter 10, verses 6 through 20, and you get some of those names in your head and they start leaping off the page, it's a different, let me ask you this question. When you close your eyes and you try to imagine what Jesus looks like, what's the image you see? You only see the image that they put before you, right? I'm trying to change that image because it is definitely a false image. Now, here's a definitely an unknown fact, that there are more pyramids in the Sudan than there are in Egypt. Now, there's some reasons why one is promoted over the other. I'm not even going to get into that right now. I just want you to understand that there are more there. And like I said before, it depended on where that pharaoh might be from. If he lived in Nubia but was born in the Sudan, the Ethiopian area, then he may have set his palace up there. Or if he was living in Egypt, he may have decided that his tomb when he died was going to be made in the area that he came from. And so again, there are more pyramids. I know this first time you've heard this. There are more pyramids that are in the Sudan than there are in Egypt. Let me let that work with you for a little bit. Let that thought sink in, that there are more pyramids in Egypt than there are in the Sudan. This is what we call the the marinating period. All right? Letting these truths sink in so that our thinking can change. Still with me? The term Middle East was created because of racism. Didn't exist prior to 1880. Didn't exist. No one said it. No one used that term. But they had to, like the video I showed you, short video, just 2 minute and 12-second video that I showed you last week. They had to find a way because they could not wrap their minds around these people that we've enslaved are the ones that made the pyramid. So they must be white somehow. You know, their skin was black. Some folks were saying they're white. They're just somehow, they're not intelligent enough to have created these pyramids. I mean, their dynasties lasted longer than any other dynasty ever has. We'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Not today, but we'll get to that. Their dynasty lasted longer than anyone else's. But these white men, wanting to tout superiority, had to make what we are now calling the Middle East, had to make it not a part of Africa, when it absolutely was. Right? And it became a popular thought. Why? Because that's what people want to think, that black people are inferior. So this is the thought. The white man comes first and everybody else is second. Everybody else is secondary. He's first. He's the primary person. None of that is true. God made us all equal. Constitution of the United States says that we're all supposed to be equal. But that's not exactly, of course, the way that they want that acted on. Want to feel superior. So we set up something like what we see here in this picture. And there are many pictures that are like this that were made years ago because people truly believed it. Isn't that something? That people truly believed their superiority. And it caused, made the excuse for slavery and everything else. But I'm showing you evidence that these people were black, right? The original folks. Noah was black. Right after Noah, we're looking, and you need to allow yourself to be blessed enough to let that sink in. Again, I'm not trying to make anybody angry. Just trying to understand the truth. When this lie was first, I can't see that word, I'm sorry, told or whatever, alleged in this country, many whites thought that the disposition of a person, his quality, his character, was transmitted through the blood because at the time there was no understanding of genetics. So if you mixed white blood and black blood, since black blood is inferior and white blood is superior, then you will taint the white blood and will no longer be pure. Based on that proposition, we have to keep the races apart. God never said that. But that's where this stuff comes from. That's where this kind of thinking comes from. But those people were all of that. This is what the empire looked like. And what we are calling the Middle East is not it was a part of Africa. People aren't even allowing Egypt to be a part of Africa anymore. It's a part of the Middle East. It's all a lie. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing what I'm saying? It's all a part of a big lie. And we have to stop buying into it. A man by the name of Volney did some research and he reached this conclusion. I'll come back to maybe showing you all the pictures. We're just about done. I want you to see this. Just think that this race of black men today, our slaves, and the object of our scorn is the very race which we owe our arts, science, and even the use of speech. And this Egyptian Sphinx here, again, they didn't fall off because of poor construction. It came off because this is what Napoleon did. But over and over again, these people are black. Matter of fact, in that video last week, I told you they stopped digging. They stopped digging based on the fact that they were finding that the blacker they got, the origin of people who settled what is now referred to as the Middle East. What were they? Afro-Asiatic. We've been talking about that, using Semitic languages. Folks, these were black people all throughout this territory. And this went on for thousands of years. This isn't some fluke where it's just a couple of people here and there. Look at these people. These are folks that are living today. We have to write this story. Talked to you about this book last week. I really want to encourage you to buy Gay Byron's book. She took her doctoral study and turned it into a book. There are things that I'm sharing with you that's where I know I showed you some sources earlier, but I wanted to separate this out because this book explains to you, Aristotle was mentioned earlier, it explains to you when they changed the narrative, when all of that started, and how they changed Jesus from black to white, how they did it, when they did it, what they said. Every Monday at 8 p.m., I'm doing my thing. Every Monday at 8 p.m., I'm doing my thing on the Urban Apologetics channel. Any messages that you missed, they are stagnant on the YouTube Urban Apologetics channel. So you can get caught up because I am progressively working my way through things. You can get caught up and get this information. Listen, I'm Pastor Jackie Jackson. May the Lord bless you. May he increase your understanding, and may you walk and live knowing, whether you're black or white, the things that the black man has accomplished and how God used him over and over and over again throughout Scripture. May the Lord bless you. See you next time. Bye-bye.